Kumlainen Ablat Gemara. Everyone. Today's Gemara is of Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, B'Sachta Tainis. I actually wanted to quote you. I told you yesterday is an interesting rishon there. This is the Ritva. I don't know exactly, haven't seen anyone talk about it, but when we said yesterday, the difference is if it's a Goyish Kaver, if there's no Jewish basic flourish, if you go to a Goyish one, the reason why we go there during the fast is to show, I guess, our humility and so on. Or is it that we're asking the Mason to be mispal? The difference is whether if there's no Yiddish cemetery, you go to Goyish cemetery. So the Ritva of Yudzayin Amud Aleph, the Rebbe of Yudzayin Amud Aleph says, the Yesh Lemer, we can say, even if there's a Jewish cemetery, Kasava, this Amora is of the opinion that Kivrei Goyim Adif, it's better to go to a non-Jewish cemetery. And why? Lemer to say, we are similar, because obviously there's a drought and we need to do tshuva. We are similar to the people buried here, to the Goyim. Why is it preferred to go to a Goyish cemetery? So he says, the Ilu Kivrei Yisrael, because to go to a Jewish cemetery, Chayim Heim Chashuvim. The Yisraelim, even after they pass away, are still considered alive. And that's why I'm adding, that's why we call it a Beis HaChaim. And he brings in the Horus, the Rabbeinu Tam said this, but he only said the Yesh Lefarish. There's another explanation, and the rest of the explanation has been deleted by the censors. So this is interesting what the Ritva says here. Okay. The Gemara of Yudzayin Amud Aleph, we're talking about the different tefillahs, the 6 additional tefillahs that they used to say. So, and then we said each tefillah has also a chasima, a bracha that comes at the end, and we're all shouting to the Eibishter, and I say to the Eibishter, you should listen to our voice of our screaming on this very day, and then we say, Baruch, whatever it is, when we get to the last 2 brachas, when we get to the brachas of Eliyahu and Shmuel, the last bracha of Shmuel is Shlomo and David, but we get to the brachas of Eliyahu and Shmuel. So one of them it says tzaka, and one of them it says tefillah. So Tana we learn the Braisa, 3 lines on top. Yesh machlif and tzaka Eliyahu, they take the word tzaka away from Shmuel and put it by Eliyahu, and tefillah, they take the word tefillah away from Eliyahu and put it by Shmuel. Says the Gemara Bishleima Gabi Shmuel. By Shmuel we find the expression tzaka. We also find the expression tefillah sibei tzaka. It says both. But both expressions are there, so you can interchange. The Gabriel, tefillah ksib, he davened to the Eibishter by Hara Carmel, or B'tzaka ksib. Where does it say that he screamed out? So why are we concluding the bracha according to one brisa with the word tzaka by Eliyahu? So we answer, Aneni Hashem, Aneni, because he repeats it twice. Aneni Hashem, Lashon tzaki. That's a way of tzaka, of screaming out. Says the Gemara. Shish is the one on the 6th bracha, which is with the 5th. He says, Misha on Esyoine, and on this last bracha, he's talking about David Shlomo. Yoime lived after David and Shlomo. My time of Maktin Bereisha. Why do we first mention Yoine before we mention David and Shlomo? Now, actually, there's a big controversy when Yoine lived. Exactly whose time was he a Navi? But Rashi brings it, there's a time of Yeshaya ben Amatzio, the narration before Yeshaya. He says he brings that on, that's from Seder HaOlam. But there is a big controversy as to when Yoina actually lived. The reason why we want to finish David and Shlomo, even though they chronologically lived prior to Yoina, Merachem al Oretz. We want to finish with that the bracha Merachem al Oretz, Yishav Rachmanas on the land, and that's more befitting to David and Shlomo. Tana, we learned Mishum Sumchas Amru. He said, but the way you should actually finish the bracha is Baruch. Instead of Baruch Merachem al Oretz, you say Baruch Mashpil Haremim. That he would lower those mighty ones because they were subdued and there was a drought, and only through rain it caused them to do tshuva. Sholish Tainus, first 3 fast days, the Anshe Mishmer, we had a whole argument regarding the Mishmer. That's the people who have their weekly kuna. Then there's the base of the daily kuna. So the Mishmer were on call during that day, and the base of were on duty. And then we had the Anshe Maimed. whether they fasted part of the day, another day. So it depends which bracket. And we have two opinions in the Gemara. In the Mishnah, it says the Gemara, Anshe Mishim Mishlim. What we learn, is how come it is that the Anshe Mishma, the people who are on call, can drink wine at night, because maybe there's too much work to do for the people who are on call on duty that day. But they have to always be ready, prepared to come and assist. So therefore, during the day, they're on call. At night, they're not really on call anymore because there's nothing. Whatever there's to be done, there's enough people in the base of to take care of it. The people who are actually on duty at night as well, they cannot drink. They're constantly preoccupied with their service. Based on this, we say as follows: a fascinating thing according to the Rabbanon. Kol kohen, any kohen, shemakir mishmarta. He knows, for example, he has a shtayichus. He has, and he knows for a fact which kahuna he comes from. He knows which mishmeres, which group they're from. Umishmer based also, he knows the fact which day he is. Then the Yodeya Shebote Avoise Kavua Sham, and he knows that his family is Kavua there. Rashi says, interesting, Rashi doesn't say a number, Rashi says Harba. There were many Bote others that had no specific work. They were not on call, or they were not there at all. They were just, if they were available, if they were ever needed, but they were never on duty. So therefore, you have to know that your base of was actually Kavua there. And also, Rashi, another pshat, Kavua, they mean they weren't rejected or thrown out of the base of Midrash, as we know there were a few families that were asked to leave. So if you know for a fact exactly what day it is, we believe Mashiach is coming. The base of Midrash will be built instantly. So these kohanim are always on call. They always have to be ready for that day. Also, they know precisely the day. They're not allowed to drink wine that day because you have to believe the Mashiach is coming, and the base of Midrash will be built in an instant. What about Makim Mishmarta? You know the week that you're on, but they Makim Mishmarta also. You don't know the specific family you are. You know the family, the Hayor, if Ezra mentioned the number of family. You know the family, you don't know the day. So then the Yedea Shabbat, but you also know that you're fixed there. Also, Lishtas Yain, Kol Shabbos. Then that entire week, you shouldn't drink wine because maybe Mashiach will come. Mary made the base will be straight away, and you will be called to duty. What about Eine Makim Mishmarta? Let's say you don't know precisely which family you are, you don't know which larger family you are, you don't know Mishmar either, but the idea Shabbat, but you know for a fact that you do serve in the base of Mikdash, your family was there, then Asr Lishtas Yain Kol Hashana, you cannot drink wine all year long. But if you don't even know for sure that your family was Kavua there, then it's mutter, a great Ashilans, because we don't know. And we don't say that everyone has a cheskes kashrus. They are, because Rashi said before, there were many kohanim who were not on duty. It's not a bad thing. They just were not on duty. They were needed, unless they were called upon only when they were necessary. So if you don't know, then you're allowed to drink wine the whole time. Rebbe says, I say, truth be told, that technically they shouldn't be drinking wine at all because base will be built. And even though they don't know when they're supposed to be, even these kohanim, where Rashi learns, but they always have to be available in case they're needed. So maybe they'll be needed. Maybe the Jewish population will be that large that all these kohanim will be needed. So technically, no kohen. If you don't know your family, you shouldn't be drinking at all. What should I do? His takana is what happened because of Churban Beis Hamikdash, because the Mashiach hasn't come yet, to say that no one should drink wine right now because the Mashiach is coming right now, but you believe, and the Beis Hamikdash will be built instantly. Then that he says that is not grounds to stop the kohanim from drinking, from drinking all the time. So he says even if you know your mishmeres, even you know your family and everything else. We don't say that because maybe the mishmaras have changed, and maybe everyone is necessary for Chanukah Zabayis. Who knows what's going to be there? But the fact that the Mashiach is not here right now, therefore we don't. We're not worried about it. We don't stop the kohanim from drinking wine. Says the Gemara. Amar Abai says, "Kaman shosu eat the kohanim." So the kohanim would drink wine today on what basis? Chamra wine kedebi is like Rebbe. We're talking about not as the Rishonim say, not the wine in the middle of the meal, because the wine in the middle of the meal doesn't make you shake. We're talking about wine. Stop taking a drink of wine outside of a meal. Now, in halacha, the big shayla about the kohenim today. Are they kohenim ha'todah, or do we say the kohenim l'chumra? But we don't know if they're kohenim at all. As we know by Pidyon Ben, there were people who were machmed used to give to every single kohen they saw the shkolim, because we don't know. There's a bad hate in the end of Hilchot Birchos Kohanim, interesting bad hate about that. Whether we assume that kohenim today are actually real kohenim, and then some say there are a few families that we know traditionally, for going back for many, many, many years, that they are pure kohenim, and in others we always have to doubt that maybe there's some gadim in between, or maybe who knows. So it's all like a suffix kohen. But the Gemara is talking about vadai kohenim. Anshe mishmer, anshe maimed, asurin l'saper, they're not allowed to take a haircut l'chabes and go on to b'chamishim on Thursday. They're permitted and they cover the Shabbos. By time, why shouldn't they? We don't want them to come into the job while they wait till the last minute and they'll do it. We want them to come already well kept. Melech, a king, a king should take a haircut every day. Now, fascinating. I told you yesterday that in Shulchan Aruch and Siman Reish Samach Aleph, I think. So there you have. You shouldn't cut your nails on Thursday because they grow back on Shabbos. The Taz then takes a leap from there and says, no, you take a haircut on Thursday because it grows back on Shabbos. Now, Alter Rebbe asks the question: how can it be that you now take a haircut on Thursday, grow back on Shabbos? It says right here, king takes a haircut every single day. How can you take a haircut on Thursday if you can grow back on Shabbos? Now, I'm not sure why that was asked also from the fact that the Anshe Maimed would take a haircut on Thursday to cover Shabbos. Clearly that they took haircuts, and a king takes every single day, so maybe you can find some kind of a teretz. Since every day he takes Thursday as well. But when it comes to, in other words, because the king takes a haircut every single day, maybe it doesn't really grow back because the following day you take another haircut. The Taz will answer that it's not going to grow back on Shabbos because Friday you cut it again. And 3 days from that is Sunday. But what about the Anshe Maimed? Anshe Maimed, they took a haircut on Thursdays. And they didn't take another haircut every day. Why doesn't the Alter Rebbe bring a raya from there? A question on the Taz that you should be able to take a haircut on Thursdays. I don't know. Anyway, king takes a haircut every single day. Kohen Gadol me'erev Shabbat. Kohen Gadol takes a haircut every Friday. Kohen Hedyed achas l'shleishim yom. A Kohen Hedyed. This is like the minimum. The Kohen will take every day he can, but the minimum is every Friday. Kohen Hedyed once in 30 days. If you want to take it sooner, he can. But Melech mustapim b'chol yom. First of all, why the king take it every day? Melech b'yafoi sechzen einecha. You should see a king always when he looks well kept and well preserved. So obviously, having very short hair is far better, far more elegant and distinguished than not. Kohen Gadol Shabbat my time. Why because every Friday a new group comes in, they take our start on Shabbos. They haven't seen the Kohen, so they should always see. We want them naturally to respect the Kohen Gadol, so therefore they should always see him well kept. So every Friday he takes a haircut. It's a mitzvah him take a haircut every Friday. Kohen Hedyed achas l'shleishim yom, and the Kohen had 1 to 3 days. How do we know that? Asya, we learn out We learn out from Nozer that a Kohen Gadol has to take a haircut once every 3 days. Kohen Hedyed every 3 days. How do we do that? Because it's here it's the Roshim leigalechu. It says actually Yecheskel and Tanakh. They shouldn't shave or para leishalechu, nor should they leave the hair grow very wild. So we know it says the word para leishalechu. The hair shouldn't go very wild. Where do you find the word para and what's considered wild? It says in the Torah in Pashas Nozer Kodesh year, the Nozer should be holy. Gadol para sa'aresh should let his hair grow. And how long is a Nozer for? Malahal shleishim. How do you know a Nozer is 30 days long? Afkan shleishim. So here also when it says para, that which I told you by Nozer, he should let it go for 30 days growing. I don't want to go any beyond that by a kohen. And how do you know Nozer 30 days? Nozer goofy know how to know 30 days. Stam bezidish shleishim yom. How do we know? Macross and the pasuk Kodesh year. It says year, and the word year Yud K 10 2 U's is 20 and 2 H's is 10. The gematria plus number 30. Amazing! You're learning out of halacha from a gematria. Maybe this is what the Torah meant to say. It shouldn't grow at all. Now there's 2 ways to learn pshat. Anything more to hear? One way to learn pshat is lidbu klal. So Rashi learns, what do you mean? Maybe a Kohen, a Hedyot has to take a haircut every day. Now, it's a bit odd for that shot because the Kohen Gadol is once a week and the Kohen Hedyot every day. Why would a Kohen Hedyot be stricter than a Kohen Gadol? However, there's another shot, and then the Rashi's words have to be changed a little bit. Others say that klal is made up of two words, kol lamed. Maybe the Torah says, I don't want you to grow 30 days. I want you to take a haircut of 29 days. You should never reach, not that wait the 30 days and then take a haircut. Right before it reaches Peter, before it reaches 30, you should take a haircut. So loy libu kol lamed. You shouldn't let it grow into two words and the printer put them together the full 30 days. Amalei, so you answer back, yeah, because if it would have said, Lo yishalechu pera, don't grow the pera, in other words, it has to stop before 30. Okay, you're right, 29. Hashlekibu pera, in other words, that pera, which I told you about another 30 days, that 30 days, Lo yishalechu, don't let go any beyond that. Pera lehavish, luchud lo yishalchi, should be pera, but no more. Nami. So today also, why don't Kohanim have to take haircuts as well once in 30 days? Because we compare it to those to Kohanim who are forbidden to do any work while they're under the influence of alcohol. Master Yaim is Mabiudas is only when they walk in the base of media, he was outside the base of media allowed to. Avochanami over here also they what do you call it? There's no base of English, so therefore the issue of haircut doesn't apply. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. Tanya Rebbe says, I would say Kohen drink wine at all. My sister that the takana is the fact that there's no base of English. And Abai says, Kaman Shosu in the Kohen Chamra, Rebbe. Abai said that the Kohen would drink wine today, only they're drinking it because Rebbe says that they're allowed to. I mean, according to the Rabbanan, they're not allowed to because we're always saying that the base of English will be built. So therefore, if all the base of English will be built, and that's why Kohanim shouldn't drink, according to Rabbanan, Kohanim shouldn't drink wine. So therefore, maybe they should take haircuts as well. So therefore, because every day you have to believe Meheda Yibana Beis Hamikdash, and according to the Rabbanan who say that Kohanim shouldn't drink wine because maybe the Beis Hamikdash will be built today, nor should they let the hair grow more than 30 days because maybe the Beis Hamikdash will be built today. They have to be ready to serve straight away. Because the Rabbanasi, my time, why Mehedi Yibana Beis Hamikdash? The Beis Hamikdash will be built straight away. Ubin and Kohanim are avoid. Kohanim are suitable to avoid straight away. And if they're under influence, they can. One answers. Here by a haircut, it's not a big deal because if the Beis Hamikdash will be built, it takes only a couple of minutes to take a haircut and they can walk right in. They can remedy the situation straight away. Wine, on the other hand, you're under the influence. But there is a way to remedy wine straight away as well. If you drink also, take a cat nap, very short nap, and they're ready, and there they are. Tomorrow says, no, depends how much you drink. If you drank wine, just walk a kilometer approximately, or go to sleep for a cat nap, it's good enough. That's part of the most questions. So just like you can take a haircut to remedy that, you can just take a cat nap and remedy that as well. So the Gemara, didn't we learn when did we say that a short nap is good enough? He drank a small, a modicum of wine, the measure of the vis. If he drank more than the vis, if he drank more than the vis, surely the derech is matted him, and the sleep makes him. In other words, if a cat nap will make it worse, not better. You need a long sleep to remedy it, and that's why when it comes to wine, we don't drink, but a haircut takes 2 seconds to fix it up. Rav Ashi says, no, I'll tell you the difference. If a Kohen walks into the base of Mikdash while he's under the influence and he does service, whatever he does is ruined. It's disqualified. The Mechle Avodah, they desecrated Avodah, Gozer Bu Rabbanan, were very strict. Don't drink wine, according to the Rabbanan. Pruye Reish. Let's say a Kohen shouldn't have long hair, but he did have long hair, and he walked to the base of Mikdash, and he served. All the kabbanas that were done, affected by him, are still kosher. The lemachli avodah, he doesn't desecrate avodah like Gozer Bu Rabbanan born Gozer. Says more ask a question. Mesa asks a question. Elu sheheim ben Misa, the following kohanim, if they serve the base of midrash, they deserve to be put to death. Shtuyi yain is under the influence of wine, no pruye reish, or if he has long hair. Now, how do you know if you have long hair that you're chayiv Misa? Where does the Torah say so? This is bishloim shtuyi yain behediksi, but says pashanosa yain b'shecher teish. Says clearly in the pasuk that wine and old wine you shouldn't drink, and it says v'loy semusa, and thereby you won't die. Ela Pri Reish Minala. And how do you know somebody who is Pri Reish? I know somebody's long hair, he deserves to die. Because that is from Tanakh. It says in Vayecheskel, "V'roisham lo yigalechu." They shouldn't, shouldn't shave their head. Upar lo yishalechu. No, they should have long hair. And Ksiv Basrei. And then the very next pasuk, it says there, not far away, it says, "V'yayin lo yishtu." Sorry, it's the very same pasuk. "V'yayin lo yishtu." The next pasuk. Don't drink wine. So therefore, because of correlation between Pruya Reish and Yain, we make a Gzera Shabbat. The Boy Melachata Primis. For Iskish, we compare or we make an equation. Pruya Reish to Yain, Mash to Yain, Bemisa, to Yain deserve death. Af Pruya Reish Bemisa. Umina. So why don't we also then take a step further? If you already have this hectors between the two, just like we compare death, why don't we also compare that the Avodah should be desecrated? We know. If you served in the basic meters while you're under influence, your Avodah is worthless. No, Af Pruya Reish Mechlabayda. Why don't you do the same thing regarding Pruya Reish? When the answer is no, we only compare it to when it comes to misa. However, when the hekesh is only halfway. When it comes to as far as desecrating avodah, we do not desecrate avodah from the hekesh. Now, why it's a parenthesis? Because we have a general rule: ain't hekesh lechatzayin. I mean, if you have a hekesh, it should be all the way. Why? We need an explanation why we only compare it to the punishment, but we don't compare it to the act to the work that they did, whether it's disqualified or not. So the other gist is that in fact we omit this parenthesis and we leave with the word kasha. Because one told us that a kohen is not allowed to work in basic English with long hair. Before Yecheskel told us, how did we know? Amalei said to him, the time I asked the question, there are certain dinim that we learned from Yecheskel that we didn't know from the Torah. So last year, the same question. Between Har Sinai and Yecheskel, so many years in between, what did they do? Obviously, they still followed that, but how did they know? Chida said, we never found this in the Torah, but it's clearly written in Tanakh, which is Yecheskel, and we learned yesterday, Rashi says, whenever Tanakh gives us, legislates, that's called Divrei Kabbalah. It says the pasuk by Yecheskel, Kol ben Necher, and Aralev, Aral Bosa, somebody literally, not only somebody who worships Avodah Zarah, but somebody who's not Gemalit. So, and according to Rashi, it's not even his fault. His brother, he was hemophiliac, his brothers died under the knife by bris, and therefore he's not allowed to have a bris. But the fact is, he's an Aral Bosa, he's not circumcised. He shouldn't be working base of Mikdash. He shouldn't work in the base of Mikdash and serve the Eibishter. Before Yecheskel said it, who knew? They obviously learned it from Moshe Sinai. It's a din in the Torah, but it wasn't written. We have dinim in the Torah that weren't written, but it was passed down from Moshe Rabbeinu. But Yecheskel came along Yecheskel and decided to put it on a pasuk. Is Hachanam saying here? The same thing over here. It's just like the din of Aral Basa. We learned from Yecheskel. So too here, Pruya Reish, carrying long hair, shouldn't serve. It's from Yecheskel. Gemara Gomel, it learned from Moshe Sinai. Yecheskel came on Yecheskel and put it in the pasuk. And again, if you learned the previous Gemara, which says that Yechai Misa, but the Malacha is not disqualified, is Kigmei Halacha Lemisa. What the tradition was only regarding Misa, not regarding whether the avodah is qualified or disqualified. Okay, then we discussed Kol HaKosav. It says Kol HaKosav Megillas Tainis. Anything recorded, all these miniyam tavim that were recorded in Megillas Tainis. The Leil, the Mispah, there were two. Some of them says you shouldn't eat, you shouldn't fast. Some of them says it goes beyond that. Remember, to Machlekes Rishonim, Mishar Ashland. But not only you shouldn't fast, but you shouldn't make a eulogy. If the Yom Tov demands not to make a eulogy, it's a more significant Yom Tov. And if the Yom Tov just says don't fast, it's sort of a minor Yom Tov. Now, what about prior and post? So we said, if it says don't eulogize, then the fun of Asa, that the day before is not only the day itself, but the day before. It is forbidden. And right now we're assuming when it say the day before is forbidden, it's not only forbidden to fast, it's also forbidden to make a eulogy. But the day after, who cares? Once the Yom Tov is over, we don't care what you do afterwards. And Rabbi Yosi disagrees. Rabbi Yosi says it depends. If it says fast only the day before, but if it says hesped, then the day before, the day after. Says the Gemara, Torah we learned. The following days, the ladies and you should fast. And the following days are all minor Yom Tovim, and they shouldn't be. You shouldn't fast on those days. But there are some the Leila Mispain, some that are more significant. You shouldn't eulogize in those days. And he says as follows: From the first day of Nisan to the 8th day is a minor Yom Tov. Why would happen? Isukim Tamida. They finally was able to establish the carbon tamid. What happened was the Tzedukim and the Baisusim, they came along and said, or it was the Baisusim who came along and said that that the Torah said, "Esakeves echad tasa b'boiker." The esakeves asher tasa ben abayim is all written in singular, and they learned that every individual Jew has to bring a carbon every single morning and every single night. And the Chachamim then had to go and prove them wrong and prove them that no, that it's a plural for everybody, because it says as carbon lach misha tishmeru lahakir, because it's tishmeru lahakir lashon rabim, we know that everyone brings it's a communal carbon, not an individual carbon. So finally, when they were successful and the Baisusim relented, they made a big Yom Tov, and that was from the first day of Nisan to the 8th day of Nisan. Then the Gemara continues. So that was the first day of Nisan to the 8th day of Nisan. Then Mitamnaya Bay at Soif Moeder, from the 8th day of Nisan till the end of Pesach, is also a minor Yom Tov. Why? That's when they established the Yom Tov of Shavuos. Remember the Baisusim were running around saying that Shavuos is Memacharas HaShabbos, means that Shavuos always has to be on a Sunday, so you always have to start counting the Omer on the Sunday. And we had the Gemara Menachos. We were having Gemara Menachos, the big discussion there between Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and the Zokin Echad as to how do you learn the Psukim, and then Gemara gives like 7 or 6 different explanations to prove that they are wrong. Mochel Shabbos actually means the second day of Pesach, and Shavuos therefore depends totally on when Pesach comes around. And interesting, Rashi's girsa of the Gemara there is that after the discussion, Rashi says v'chazru behen, that the Baisusim actually changed their mind and relented. But interesting, you'll notice in Shas that Baisusim's arguments with the Gemara were different than its Dukim. The Dukim just didn't believe in the Torah. In the Chacham interpretation of the Gemara, literally, the Baisusim actually were more learned. They had their own pshatim in the Torah, a little bit different than the Tzdukim. Even though they're both Talmidim of Antinu Shesechai and Tzaddik and Baises, the Tzaddik and Baises had different approaches. Tzaddik, they had no interpretations. Take every word literally. They were literalists. And the Baisusim were sort of literalists, but they also had their own interpretations in the Gemara. And these major confrontations and discussions were with Baisusim. So we have the Korban Tamid, we have the Shavuos as well. Anyway, so it's a Yom Tov, and we don't it's a Yom Tov, well, the Leil Mispen. So these are more significant Yom Tovim, Nisan, so you don't do any eulogies. Okay, now we're going to analyze this. For the first day, this until the 8th day, you say continue to Leil Mispen. That's where they established that a Korban Tamid, and therefore it's a Yom Tov, and we don't do any Hespedim. The question is very simply, the first day of Nisan is Rosh Chodesh anyway, you're not allowed to make a hesped. So just say from the second day of Nisan they established a Yom Tov. Why do you have to include the first day of Nisan? The Lama Lima Lema, why do you have to start off from the Rosh Chodesh? And Lema, you should just say today by Nisan. From the second day of Nisan onwards is the Yom Tov, and you should make a eulogy. And Rosh Chodesh Gufa Yom Tov Uvasa. And Rosh Chodesh anyway, you can't make a eulogy because Rosh Chodesh. Why do you have to include that in? Amarav, there is a reason why we include that in, and that is very simply because if it's as far as Rosh Chodesh is, but every Rosh Chodesh you're allowed to fast. They do. It's called Yom Kippur Cotton. But if it's part of Megillah's Tainus and it says you shouldn't make a eulogy, then you're not allowed to fast the day before. So therefore, by including Rosh Chodesh Nisan, that means that Chav Tes Adar also you cannot fast. That's why. Amar Alitcha Lesa Yen Shulchan to Asa the day before. Says the Gemara, Shulchan, look before the Gemara. First Gemara answers, is a day of Rosh Chodesh. Is that enough grounds not to fast? Shulchan Nami Tepel Davi Yen Shulchan Rosh Chodesh. It's a day before Rosh Chodesh. Says the Gemara, Rosh Chodesh Doraisen. Rosh Chodesh is from the Torah. Udoraisa leBoy Chizik, and the Torah does not need any reinforcement. And we had this in Rosh Hashanah. At the time we learned that all the days that are written in Megillah's Tainus, the day before, the day after, are Aser, Shabbos, and Tevim, but Shabbos and Yom Tov, Hein Asudin, Shabbos and Yom Tov, they're Aser, but Lifneim Lachreim Mutarim. Why is it that Erev Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos, you're allowed to fast, and why is it Erev these Yom Tovim you're not allowed to? Halalu divrei Torah. Shabbos the answer is not Torah, but divrei Torah is yichiduk, and Torah doesn't need to be reinforced. You can fast before, but at Shabbos you'll still enjoy. But halalu divrei seifrim. These are the words of the Rabbanim. These are all Yom Tovim or the Rabbanim. But divrei seifrim tzich chizuk, and dinim of the Rabbanan, innovation of the Rabbanan need to be reinforced, and therefore Erev as well. We don't want you to fast, so that you should treat it more seriously. That's why we included the Chodesh Nisan in this minor Yom Tov to also extend the Isser of fasting to the day before prior Chavtas Adar. Then you continue saying, but from the 8th day of this to the end of Pesach. That's when they established Chag HaShavuos, and therefore the Leilim Misperi should make a hesped. The obvious question is, but Pesach anyway you can't make a hesped. It's Yom Tov. Just say from the 8th day of this until Pesach. Why do you have to include till the end of Pesach? My wife to say the end of Pesach. Anyway, Pesach is awesome. And you can't answer me the day before, because anyway, just include all the days between the 8th of Nisan until Pesach that you're not going to make a eulogy, and that's it. You don't have to tell me that during Pesach it's included in this minor Yom Tov and don't eulogize. Anyway, you can't eulogize. Says the Gemara, no. According to the Chachamim, you're right. You're right, but according to Rabbi Yossi, says that a day you're not allowed to make a eulogy, not only the day prior, but the day post as well, you're not allowed to. That's why it was included the whole Pesach. I'll tell you the day after. Says the Gemara, we want the reason why Pesach is included, like I said before, is to tell you that Isser Chag is also forbidden. Command says the Gemara, who are you following? If this follows, this Bryson must be following Rabbi Yossi that holds that even post. If it's a day you're not allowed to eulogize, not only the day prior but the day post as well, it should still be considered Yom Tov, and that's why we had to include the entire Pesach in this minor Yom Tov. And as far as Pesach is concerned, it's Mehat Torah. It doesn't extend beyond the Yom Tov itself. Damar, who says Bein Lefanav, Bein La'achrav, says Imoni Hachiv. So is Be'esrim V'Tisha Nami. So if you hold like Rabbi Yossi that any minor Yom Tov, the day before and the day after is included. So let me ask you a question. Let me go back before. You told me the reason why the Chodesh was included is to tell me that the 29th day of Adar is forbidden to fast because it's the day prior to this minor Yom Tov, and we're following variation and so on. So that's a question. My idiot, or that in fact includes the Chacham as well, because they hold the day prior to us. But what do you need it for? Since the 28th day of Adar was a Yom Tov, and you're saying that whenever it says a Yom Tov, you're not allowed to make a hesped, according to Rabbi Yossi, and he holds a day post as well, you're not allowed to. So anyway, the 29th day of Adar, you couldn't make a eulogy or fast, and the reason is because it's a day after the 28th, and the 28th is the Yom Tov, we'll see in a minute, and therefore anyway you couldn't fast. So why do you have to tell me that you couldn't? What do you have to then tell me about Rosh Chodesh Adar to tell me that you're not allowed to fast the day before, which is the 29th? You couldn't fast the 29th anyway because the day after the 28th. And according to Rabbi Yossi, the day after is also forbidden. What's the story of the 28th? You just told me the reason why the 29th is also because it's the day before the minor Yom Tov, when they established the Korban Tamid was set in train. It was the day after 28th time we learned. We had more exactly we'll go through it quickly. The 28th day of the month, they had great news. They came to the Jewish people. What happened? The Layidin min haraisa. No longer they have to avoid learning Torah. What happened was it once happened that there was a decree made on the Eden. First of all, they shouldn't learn Torah. They shouldn't circumcise the children. As b'nei Ushichalu Shabbos, they should be Mechal Shabbos. In fact, Chashmonai, they say is an abbreviation. Ches is Chodesh, the calendar. Shin is Shabbos, and Mem is Milah, and Nun is Niddah. What did Yehuda ben Shimon do? They went to the Senate, the Roman Senate, to ask advice. She called from this matriarch, she called and she had all these different eminent politicians who used to circulate in her area and go to her parties. She advised them, go out and make a protest. We had then, this is the first protest that we know, public protest. They went and made a protest at night right in front of her house. They said, first they said to Abishai, Abishai, listen to us, help us out. Then they turned to these people. Aren't we brethren? Don't we share the same father? And we both come from Yitzchak, Esav and Yaakov, we both have Yitzchak and Rivka. Why do you treat us differently in other nations? That you make these terrible decrees. Ubitl, and they were all moved they were stirred by that, and they canceled the decrees. And that very day, they made a Yom Tov. So we see the 28th was the Yom Tov. So Amar Abai answers, so the 29th you can't fast anyway. We're talking about what happens if two ways of shot. Either there's an extra other, and according to one shot in Rashi, he must say that the extra other, even though we normally learn is 30 days, it would be 29 days. So will be a 30-day, or that other would normally 29. They decided they didn't see the new moon. They made it 30 days. If other is 30 days, then okay, the 29th day you're not allowed to fast because it's the day after 28th. But the 30th day you'll fast because Erev Rosh Chodesh, you're allowed to fast Erev Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, we had to include Rosh Chodesh in the minor Yom Tov, the 8 days from Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So the day before you don't fast, even if that particular other there were 30 days, you're not going to fast the 30th day. That's why. And Avashi answers, I disagree. I hold Afilu Tema L'Chodesh Chassid, 29-day month. You know why? Because you misunderstood Rabbi Yossi. Kol Shela Achrav B'Tainis Aser Behesper Mutter. Even Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says that it's Aser prior, but then he says also that it says you shouldn't be mas, but it's Aser afterwards. Aser afterwards is not. You shouldn't make a eulogy. You shouldn't fast. So if the 29th day is post 28, all you're not allowed to do is not allowed to fast. But you're allowed to make eulogy. But because it's the day before, the new Yom day before, not only you're not allowed to fast, you're not allowed to eulogize either. And because it's between, and not, in fact, the day before as well, it's only when Rabbi Yossi says it's also lefanav al achrav, it's only limited to fasting according to Rashi. Not that make a eulogy, but because here it's sandwiched between the 28th day, which is the Yom Tov, and the Rosh Chodesh, which is this minor Yom Tov. Because it's sandwiched in between, it becomes like one 3-day Yom Tov, and therefore not only you're not allowed to fast, but you're not allowed to eulogize. So the only reason why you're not allowed to eulogize is because it was a 28th day there, and because they included Rosh Chodesh Nisan in this minor Yom Tov. Umutul b'shnei Yom Tov, asuki Yom Tov atzvei, mele Yom Tov itself, I feel the hespen nami aser. Okay, we'll stop over here and continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, same time.